I know Kevin probably 30.
That would be true.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're the youngsters of the group.
I'll take that any day.
Hey, Frankie, this is Chris Mason. How are you?
I see her mouth moving, but I can't hear Frankie.
Still on mute.
His audio's not going.
Yeah. Frankie, you can also dial in the phone number on your cell phone too and use your cell phone for audio.
God, you need to get out of here. No. This way.
Light is too. Let me see if I send her the phone number.
Hey, Frankie, are you able to hear us? Cool. Before you came on, we were talking a little bit about the COVID exterior only appraisals, the the exterior only ones that I'm sure you're familiar with. When it comes time for you to speak, I think the whole group would benefit if you would just share your opinions on how those pan out and that sort of thing. Is that okay with you? All right, thank you.
Okay, I just texted you, Frankie, the dial-in number.
Maybe she has a mute button on. Did she realize that? On the bottom left? Is your mute button?
Her button isn't saying mute, so I think it might be the volume on her actual computer. Oh, she's coming. She's connecting to audio. Is that I'm popping up again? It just takes a minute to connect to audio, Frankie. Now you should be on now. I mean, oh, still. Let's see. She's not muted on our end. Hold on, let me see. Let's see if I can send her another number. I sent you another number, Frankie, because it looks like the one you're dialing is not connecting to audio. So I sent you another, I just texted you another phone number to call in. You can also, if you see a button that says chat.
Yes.
Where's it, baby? Oh, I think I hear that. Is that them talking? Is your volume up? I think I hear you talking.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out right now. Give me a second. Actually, over here.
Oh, there you guys. I hear you guys. I hear you guys.
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
There we go.
Much better now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. You can hang up the phone line part if you want.
Okay. I think you were texting to 532. That's
Exactly
why I didn't get it. Okay. All right.
So just to confirm, you definitely can hear us now?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Sorry about that. This is my first time.
Oh, no problem. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Good morning, Frankie. This is Kevin.
Good morning.
Long time no see.
Hi, Kevin. Hi.
How are you? How are you?
I'm good.
Good,
Hi,
good.
Sam.
Hey, I know you recognize me. It's been a long time.
How are you?
I'm sorry.
I said, how are you?
I'm great. Fantastic. Another day. When I saw your name, I was like, Frankie Hartwell. Lord, it's been years.
And we're still in the game.
If a few of us young soldiers are still in the game, yes.
No, we're veterans now. We're
No.
veterans.
No. No. Don't tell nobody that. They think we know everything.
Okay, so what we're doing right now, we're just giving people a minute to basically log in. I'm also recording, and then what I'm going to do is just to go, I'm going to go live on Facebook just so that people that haven't registered can log in, and then we're going to do a little short version edit later to encourage or educate our homeowners in the future. So this is of great use to us to benefit the public. And I'm so glad that you guys have taken time to take time out of your Saturday to join us, because I think this will be so instrumental. We have so many home buying seminars that we do where we kind of breeze over the process and really go into more depth about the process once the people are in the transaction or they're out searching. But as you guys come out as professionals and do your portion of the work that goes into them closing their loans, rarely do they have time to actually hear your perspectives of what you're doing to make their home ownership possible. So thank you again. So I'm gonna just go ahead and pull it up so it's. And then also for the attendees that are online, if you could let us know where you're from, if you are, if you've owned a home before, and what brought you to the presentation today, we greatly appreciate it. Feel free during this presentation. This is an interactive presentation, so feel free to ask questions in the chat area throughout the presentation. Good morning, Ananda. Thank you for joining.
Ria, otherwise, if we're not speaking, we should be muted, right? Is that how you want this to?
Yes. If you, yeah, you can, unless, unless you have difficulty muting.
I've been on too many meetings.
I don't want to mute. I don't want you to mute and lose you. But yes.
Yeah, don't mute everybody. Mute yourself.
Right.
If you're not talking. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go live, and then we can get started. We can stay on schedule.
Yeah, I had them.
Okay, I'm glad you were able to join on. Vanetta, you were able to log in. That's good. You can use the chat to ask questions. So, yeah, I'm going to go live because she was having some trouble logging in too. So I'm going to go ahead and. Yep. And then I'm just going to, if you guys have your phones available for the agents, if you guys want to tag yourselves in the video, you can do that, or you can share it later.
Okay. I am going to share the Facebook Live once.
When you say live, okay, that's what I was just about to ask you, mean on the Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tag you guys so that it'll be easier for you to find.
Because I have somebody that just hit me, they couldn't get on, so let me.
Yeah, so I'll tag you guys just in case. And then this will be recorded too, so we will email this to everyone who registered as well. Oh, okay. Ananda said she had, Serena, Ananda said she had to copy and paste the URL to get on.
Okay. Oh, that's what they just said. Somebody, they actually text exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the beginning of our presentations are a little bit of Zoom training. That's okay. This is where we're going. So happy to be of help. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started so we can stay on track. So then everybody on, if you guys could mute, that would be great. Our presentations are a little bit of Zoom training. That's okay. And
Okay,
get
muting.
started. Okay, great. Uh-oh. Showing Serena as the speaker. Hold on. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And after we got through our technical difficulties, welcome to Back to Basics. I'm so excited to have all these industry professionals here to share with us their portion of the home buying process. My name is Rhea Cotton. I'm the broker owner of Cotton Realty, and welcome to Let's Get Back to Basics, Home Buying 101. So before we get started, we of course want to start off with introductions. Before introducing our team, I want to introduce our industry professionals that are here to help us today and learning about the home buying process. And so we will see. We will be starting with Chris Mason. Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Chris Mason. I'm a local loan originator here in the East Bay, native to the Bay Area, and I'll be happy to help you with any financing questions you have, and I'll be talking about that a little bit in just a minute.
Thank you, Chris. And then next we have Patrick Marshall from HomeGuard.
Good morning, everybody. Pat Marshall. I'm actually the account manager for HomeGuard in the East Bay area. I'm a native as well. I grew up in Pinole, Richmond. Any questions you guys have on inspections from roof to termite and home, I'll be glad to help you out with those. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we are delighted to have with us an appraiser on the line, Frankie Hartwell. You want to introduce yourself? In the name of
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, great. My name is Frankie Hartwell, and I have I work as an independent now with Midnight Appraisal Service since 1988, appraising in Oakland, San Leandro, Berkeley, and Alameda. Those are my specialty areas.
Frankie Hartwell, you want to introduce? Sorry about that. Have a little interference. Thank you, Frankie. And next we have Kevin Williams with First American Title.
Good morning, Kevin Williams, First American Title. I'm the Director of Executive Services for First American in the East Bay. I'll be sharing with you regarding what to expect when you come to title and escrow. Thank you.
Okay, and then last but not least, we have Mr. Samuel Thompson with Farmers.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Samuel L. Thompson with Farmers Insurance. I won't say how long I've been doing this, but Kevin, give it away. Over 30 years, it's been a joy to help people in the home buying process. And the last thing I want to do is I never want to be in a position where I'm holding you from closing escrow.
Thank you, Sam.
There in the Bay of California or anywhere in California. Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, you're kind of going in and out a little bit.
Okay. So Sam Thompson, Farmers Insurance, covering California, but more importantly, this San Francisco Bay Area.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay.
Okay, so now we will introduce the team. Okay. Starting with myself, again, my name is Rhea Cotton, broker owner of Cotton Realty. I've been in the real estate business for about 15 years, started in mortgage. With our virtual team, we have a virtual team which is comprised of agents throughout the Bay Area. And so we do that in order to share a wealth of knowledge for our customers and work across county lines. So as you will see in our slide here, that we cover a variety of different counties. So if you are in the East Bay and you're not sure if you're looking to buy in maybe Alameda versus Contra Costa County versus Solano County, we basically work together to ensure that we're covering and we're getting you information on properties within those areas. And each of those areas require access and membership to access those areas. And between all of our team, we do have access to cover the entire Northern California area. So we pretty much have you covered here. And so I'd like to have my agents introduce themselves, starting with Serena.
Okay, I'm Serena Kelly. I'm pretty much focusing on Contra Costa County, but do cover all areas, as Rhea said. Been licensed for over 12 years now. I actually started off being a loan processor and moved quickly into the real estate sales arena. So here and ready to serve, still growing with Cotton Realty. Glad to be a part.
Thank you, Serena. And then next we have Lanice.
Good morning. My name is Lanice Span. I cover the Solano and Napa County. I've been a realtor for 13 years, and I too started off as a loan officer. I enjoy what I do, and welcome. I love the team.
Thank you, Lanice.
You're welcome.
Next we have Felicity.
Good morning, all. My name is Felicity Mostella. I am probably one of the newest real estate agents working with Cotton. I am primarily focused on Alameda County, the Oakland, San Leandro area. So thank you guys for joining us for this workshop, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Felicity. And Claudia.
Hi, good morning. My name is Claudia Schultz, and I am also, my last 4 listings kind of been all over the Bay Area, but I do live in Oakland, and a lot of my communities are both in Alameda and Contra Costa County. Last 4 clients have been listings, but I do have several buyers doing showings almost every day, frankly. So at any hours of the day. So we're here for you. And I'm really excited to be with this team. I just love the diversity and creativity that this brokerage allows for. And so I'm really, really happy to have educational webinars like this for everyone. So thanks.
Yes. I'm really, really excited about this webinar because it's been long overdue, and I think so many people will benefit from it. Thank you all. And so we're just going to move on. And before we go into our presentation, I just wanted to share with the viewers our closings for August. And so this is just to kind of give you an idea of the areas that we do cover, all areas. So just in August, our closed sales covered Oakland, El Sobrante, Concord, Stockton, Fairfield. So Claudia is not exaggerating at all when she says we're everywhere. We're all times of all days of the week. Actually, after this seminar, I have a showing in Oakland, followed by a showing in El Cerrito. So we are a hustling team. We're out here to represent buyers as well as sellers in getting their real estate needs met. So we want to start off with the buyer's consultation. So moving right into the home buying process, it all starts off with a buyer's consultation. And the reason why I say it starts off with the buyer's consultation versus a pre-approval is because not everyone is at the point where they're ready to actually get pre-qualified for their loan, or they don't know where to go. So what we do in our home buyer's consultation is we get an insight of what your goals are, where you're looking to purchase, where you are budget-wise. So we talk about budget and savings. Based on the budget and savings and where you are in the process, you may need an institution that will assist you in preparing your credit. So we may direct you there. You may need a lender that has down payment assistance, so we can direct you there. Or you may have a relationship with your bank and you want some insight on which direction to go. So all of our agents have a team of professionals sharing with you today, our team of professionals, in helping you go into the right direction. And then at the same time, we're getting an idea of what type of home you're looking for. Location considerations. Do you need to be near a school? Are you a growing family? How many bedrooms and bathrooms? Do you need outdoor space? A lot of people are looking at building accessory dwelling units for additional income. So all of those things are what we discussed during the home buyer's consultation. And then after the home buyer's consultation, we lead you to a lender to start with your pre-approval. So I'll let Claudia take it over from here.
Okay, sure. Hi, yeah, so we're gonna start with the very first step, although some people think that that's not the first step. We brought in a great local lender who is just so helpful because for whatever reason, it seems like buyers are a little hesitant to talk to lenders in the beginning. For whatever reason, and it's different for everyone, it causes a little bit of anxiety, and at least it's what I've noticed with my buyers. And you really shouldn't. It should be the first thing you want to know. What can I buy? What can I afford to buy? If I can afford what I want, then how can I get there? So it's really, you should be excited to learn, you know, where you're at and what and get pre-approved right away and get some great advice from that person who's going to fund your purchase. So I'm going to pass it over to Chris, and he'll explain what the pre-approval looks like.
Hey, thanks, Claudia. I appreciate it. Sure. So I am a local loan originator, and talk a little bit about the pre-approval process. Basically, what the purpose of a pre-approval is to signal to the market, meaning sellers, realtors, the market, everyone that's involved in real estate, that you are a serious potential home buyer. And if you find the house that you like and you want to write an offer, that you can execute on that. That's pretty important. It's also the case right now because of COVID-19. A lot of sellers are not letting buyers in unless they are pre-approved because they don't want 50 looky-loos trampling through their house if they're not serious, because one of those looky-loos might have COVID-19, which could be a health risk to their family. Basically, what we do when we pre-approve you is we simulate a hypothetical property of 123 Main Street, and we simulate a price and a down payment, and we run the scenario. When we do the math, and we say, okay, if 123 Main Street at $700,000 was a real property, could you execute? Could you actually buy it? And that's important to protect you from wasting your time, prevent you from falling in love with a house that's at a price point that isn't necessarily realistic. And we do try and make it pretty painless, but it does require paperwork, things such as W-2s, bank statements, tax returns, etc. One of the more common misconceptions that's out there is that you have to have been on the exact same W-2 job for 2 years in order to qualify, and that is not true. And what happens is a lot of people sort of like pre-disqualify themselves. They say, oh, I've only been on this new job for 6 months, therefore I can't get a mortgage, so why would I even bother trying? The reality is I have put people into houses that were 3 months out of college. They graduated college with their degree in basket weaving. They got a W-2 salary job in basket weaving, and we pre-approved and qualified them based on their income level as a basket weaver, and they bought their house. Some of the basic paperwork mentioned is up on the screen. And a lot of times people also think, so there's two extremes. The one extreme is people that pre-disqualify themselves. They assume they can't, therefore they don't try. The other category is the people that assume that they're so eminently well qualified that they don't need to bother because, hey, I'm great. For example, one of the first people I worked with when I first got licensed was a medical doctor. And he had a rock solid 5-year contract guaranteeing him $20,000 a month of income for the next 5 years. So as far as he's concerned, it's a formality. I don't need to get pre-approved. I can go look at houses. I don't need that. It's a waste of my time. So he did that. He fell in love with a house and he started the process. And he called me up after already being in contract, which was a big no-no and very unlikely to even happen. But somehow he did it. And what happened with him is, for mortgage purposes, that medical doctor with his solid 5-year contract making $20,000 a month, his mortgage qualifying income was $0. The greater detail of that is that he was doing medical sales for an Israeli company that only had 5 workers in the United States. And because they only had 5 workers, they didn't want to set up payroll, so they had him on a 1099. And all the realtors on this conference call already know where I'm going with this. If you are 1099, then you are technically self-employed. And for self-employed people, it is true that you need to have 2 years on the job before you can use that income to qualify. So in his case, rock solid 20-year contract. He could show you in writing. All he has to do is wake up in the morning with a pulse, and he gets $20,000 a month. Doesn't matter because of the funky rules. So don't assume that's a formality, and don't assume that you can't do it when you can. The best thing to do is talk to a local licensed loan originator, find out what the reality is. It might be easier than you think. And if there is going to be bad news, it's better to get that bad news up front than to draw it out and spend your time looking at houses for something that you can't execute on. But for the most part, the bigger threat is people pre-disqualify themselves. They assume they can't and they don't even try. And I just really want to make sure no one does that. So if you want to, we don't charge money for it. It's free. Just like this webinar is free, we don't charge money, and we can give you a pretty good idea on the phone within 15 minutes of what you can do, what's realistic, and how we can help you. I think that's it. Ria, are there any specific questions, or Claudia, are there any specific questions or things you'd like me to address that I haven't touched on?
Ria, you're muted.
Yeah, so Chris, can you just basically touch on some of the basic loan programs that first-time buyers use? So conventional versus FHA with PMI.
Got it, sure. So if anyone here is a military veteran, disregard this. There's a special loan program just for you. For the rest of us, well, I am a veteran, but for most people, the basic loan programs are conventional, FHA, and occasionally down payment assistance. The sweet spot, if you can pull it off and if you have decent credit, most of those folks should and can get conventional loans. One of the big misconceptions about getting a mortgage is that if you don't save up 20% down, you are quote unquote wasting money on mortgage insurance. A scenario I like to go over just to highlight that that's not quite true. Let's say you've got a $685,000 house and you've got 5% down saved up. And you hopped on Google and Google told you it's a waste of money to buy a house without 20% down because you're going to waste money on mortgage insurance. The reality is, for that scenario, assuming a 760 FICO score, the mortgage insurance is going to be on an annualized basis, 0.24%, on a monthly basis, $130.15 per month. And that $130 per month is in lieu of having to save up another $102,000 because that's the remaining 15% down to 20% down. And the reality is, if you take the 5 years to save up that other $102,000 to get to 20% down, the real estate is still appreciated in the meantime. So you're watching the house appreciate 5% per year, or whatever the case may be, because you didn't want to pay 0.24% per year. So that's the most common misconception out there. Another very common misconception is that saving up 20% down is a necessity. That's not true. There's loan programs out there at 3% down, 3.5% down, 5% down, 10%, 15, etc. And they're all, there's a lot of really good programs out there all across the spectrum. Ria, was there anything in more detail that you wanted to go over?
No, that's great. So just like with real estate professionals, when we do our buyer's consultation, on the loan side, Chris, you do a consultation as well, where you break down different scenarios based on the client's needs, correct?
That is correct. And one of the things that we also touch on and that we really focus on here in the Bay Area is it is a hot market. It's never been a hotter market. People are expecting this, so-called recession to be, 2008 2.0. It's actually the opposite. It's a hotter market. It's really hard to get the offer accepted. The things we talk about are cash to close, monthly payment, interest rate. We also talk about how strong is your offer going to be. Is there a loan program we could put you in that would make you more appealing to the seller? Because it is a seller's market right now, and a big part of what we're doing with these pre-approval letters is marketing you to listing agents, marketing you to sellers as a serious home buyer who isn't going to waste your time and who's going to, you're going to get your payday at the end of the day. That's us talking to the sellers. So that's a huge thing that's worth talking about, is how is the loan originator going to work in concert with your realtor as a team to get your offer accepted, to get you into that house that is going to make you and your family happy.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And so
Cheers.
after the pre-approval and you set with the lender to go over all your options, then begins the home search. And Felicity, you want to tell us about that process?
Absolutely. So the home search is where you would work with, where the buyer will work with their agent to be matched with homes fitting a specific criteria. So when I say criteria, I'm speaking specifically to things like the home price, city, neighborhood, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, or even a garage. Searches can be performed two ways. As you pan over to the right side of your screen, you might see a shaded area of a map. So this is an example of doing a home search. This is narrowing your search down to a specific neighborhood. So as you can see here, you might see the map, you may see home prices. Or we can narrow the search down to doing a manual search where we're actually entering into a form the number of bedrooms that you would like, maybe a 2-story, maybe selecting the area where your schools are there. Once this information has been established, you will then receive an email that's generating homes that match your specific criteria. Within that email, you will receive a link that will link you to a web page where you will see a list of all those homes. You might receive a list of homes that were agent picked. And when we say agent picked, we're specifically saying that your agent may have come across a home that matched your search criteria and they sent it to you. Or you might receive something called an undecided listing, where the system itself is automatically generating a list of homes that match your search criteria. From there, you would operate in the elimination process. So after reviewing these homes, you might have homes that you have favorites. So favorites are homes that you are wanting to look a little bit deeper into. Then you have the possibles. These are homes that you want to keep your eye on. And then there are the complete rejects, homes that you have no interest in. So from there, you might come across a home search that you've done on your own, where you're looking at other websites and you see a home that that probably did not show up in the home search that you received. And we want to just make it a point to the buyer that when you're searching for a home and you're working with an agent, we're searching for homes from a specific criteria that you have given us. So if you see a home that did not show up in that particular list, maybe when you were searching, you have expanded your search. So it's very important that you work with your agent and let them know if you're flexible on certain things like bedrooms or a number of bathrooms, because ultimately our goal is to match you with the home that you actually want.
Thank you so much, Felicity. That was great. And did anybody from our chat, I just want to see if anybody had any questions up until this point for either Chris or Felicity about the pre-approval process or the home search process. If you do, please feel free to, okay, I think we just had a hand raised. Feel free to ask a question in the chat if you, let's see. Okay, so the hand went down. Okay, but feel free to add in the chat if you like, if you have questions as we go on. Thank you, Felicity.
While we do that, Ria, can I quickly add to the home search that it is a lot easier to track properties through this system that we use through the MLS, that once a realtor is already working with you, than you trying to track dozens on realtor.com or Zillow or anything else, especially with all of the additional information that the realtors have access to. So just wanted to mention that.
Right. Thank you, Claudia. And then there's also off-market properties that we'll have access to for off-market as well, and working within our team and our organizations. So there's a variety of different ways that we pull resources for clients. So once you've actually found the property through your home search, The next step is actually making an offer. So when making an offer, you'll complete a purchase agreement. And so it is very important that when you're writing up the purchase agreement, real estate agents are writing up agreements daily, all the time, but it's our goal to make sure that you understand what it is that you're signing. So we'll go through the home buying process, but during your consultation, before you're making your first offer, you want to read through your purchase contract and ask your real estate professional any questions that you may have regarding the verbiage. The verbiage that is built into the contract is built to basically protect you. And we'll talk about some of those protections like loan contingencies, appraisal, and inspection contingencies throughout our presentation. But there are various different things in the contract that protect you. One thing that the buyers tend to overlook sometimes is escrow money deposit. So we'll talk about the escrow money deposit, but what you're putting down for the house, the type of loan that you're getting, all of the terms and conditions, how long it'll take you to close, all of that is built into the contract. So you want to be very familiar with the parts that make up the contract. Okay, so we have a question. Later on in the presentation, can we talk more about different loans in detail, like FHA and down payment assistance? So yeah, we will definitely have it open for discussion at the end. If you want to go in depth with the loan products, there's so many and a variety of different ways of which you can use down payment assistance. So definitely, Ashley, we can touch on that at the end. So after we make our offer, when you make an offer, offers are negotiable. Okay, so your offer that you make, the seller could come back and counter or reject your offer. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go in listening to your real estate professional and on the strongest offer possible. And so the strongest offer possible will be based on things like the comparable sales in the area. So your real estate professional will look at what are the sales in the area and how strong you should go into the market. One thing that can be discouraging for buyers right now is sometimes we have listings that are well below what the market holds as far as the value for the property. So it's very important that you work with your real estate professional and understand that although a house may be listed for $350,000, if the market holds a value of 500 or 550, that was what you call maybe a teaser list price. And but don't just be discouraged, because our job is to work within what you're qualified for. So if you're qualified for $750,000, we're going to tell you about communities and neighborhoods that fall within $750,000. Okay, and so work with us, and we work with you to find your dream home within a community that fits your goals. And sometimes you may want to alter your goals to get into a community that may not be the one that you initially set forth. And that's why it's so important for us to go out and show homes with each other, not just send you listings online. We actually like to go out with the homeowner the home buyer and actually look at properties, because it's when you're looking at the properties and you're making these offers that you're really getting a grasp of what it is that you really want. And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, it's always going to be something a little different when you're actually in the property versus looking at pictures or looking at properties online. Okay, so now your offer is accepted and you are in contract. So we're going to let Felicity and Pat roll into the home inspection process.
Right. So home inspections are used to provide the buyer with an opportunity to identify major issues with the home, any issues with the home prior to finalizing the contract. And there are 3 main inspections that will be discussed here today: home, termite, and roof. So Pat, can you go ahead and chime in and let the audience know a little bit about HomeGuard, and can you walk us through the 3 main inspections?
Okay, so for HomeGuard, we're based here in Livermore, and our focus really is California. So we're California-based company, and that is our specialty. So not a lot of other companies are national, but we're a California company here. So I am not an inspector by trade. Again, I am the outside account manager, but in having 2 rentals myself, of course, I've had completed inspections on both of those. Your home inspection essentially is where the inspector goes out, he takes a look at the home, looks for anything that would be, you know, a hazard or something you may want to look at before buying the home, faulty electrical, faulty plumbing, you know, there's roof rot or wood rot here and there. So again, they're out there taking a look-see at the house, making sure it's sound, you know, looking at foundation, you know, crawl spaces, attics, things like that. Your termite inspectors, of course, what we classify as a wood-destroying pest and organism inspection report. So our inspectors are out there, they're looking for any kind of termite damage, you know, wood rot, things like that, that will make the house and foundation unsound. We do not do mold, but they will note if there is mold on the property, but we are not a mold company. So that's something that another inspection company may want to jump in on as well. Roof inspections, of course, to make sure the roof is sound. What's the age of the roof? You know, composition. You know, again, was there prior damage to the roof? How are the gutters? Things like that. If we have a tricky roof, we also have our drones. So our drone guys are all FAA certified. So again, they're taking a look-see at a tricky roof. So, you know, we want to make sure that's covered as well. Also, always feel free to call me, or you can go on our website, www.homeguard.com. It goes over all of our services, how we're doing with the COVID-19. All of our inspectors are also ASHE certified, which is the Association of Home Inspectors. So again, you want to make sure your guys, whoever's coming to your house, has good certification as well.
Okay, great. So Pat, you know, the audience might want to know, how much does a home inspection usually cost?
Now, pricing for here in the Bay Area ranges, but and it's all due to the size of the house. So we have, you know, from 0 to 2,000 square feet, from 2,000 to 3,000. So again, depending on the size of your home is going to depend on the price of the inspection. We also do pools. So of course, there's the pool on the property, you want the pool inspected, we do those. But then again, anything that has to do with the home inspection, the termite and the roof, all comes down to the size of the house.
Okay, and it looks like we have a question from Ananda, and she wants to know, what other types of inspections would you suggest, or would HomeGuard suggest?
Well, again, for me, I did everything because I'm just kind of that kind of guy. I mean, this is your investment for your life for some people, so I wanted them all. You know, so, you know, you do have the home, you have the termite, you have the roof, you have the pool. We also do our natural disaster hazard report, our NHD report. So that also goes over any kind of national or hazards that would be in the area. So floods, are you on an earthquake zone? Are you in a fire zone? Which of course the fire zone right now is a hot topic with everybody. So that kind of lays out what zone, what kind of things may be going. If there's a natural hazard somewhere in that property or in that area, it's going to disclose that and kind of go over it with you as well. Again, I did everything. That's just my, you know, again, it's a huge investment for you. So I did it all. But any and all, for the most part, you know, it's great to have that information, whether you really need it or not. But again, you want to know if you're in a flood zone, because then, you know, you have to go to our insurance guy and have flood insurance, you know, and of course, everybody should have fire, you know, and whatnot. And of course, he could go over any kind of earthquake insurance that you may want to have if you're in that zone too.
Okay, great. And just to the buyers, you know, when you're in an offer, you have a certain amount of days to get your inspections done and to negotiate with the seller if possible. And if you and the seller are unable to come to some sort of agreement, the buyer can get their escrow money deposit back because it is within the inspection contingency. And I believe that's the part where Rhea was going to go into to speak a little bit more on the escrow money deposit.
Yes, yes. So thank you, Felicity and Pat. And so part of the purchase contract, we have contingencies, and contingencies are dates or due dates by which you need to do your investigation on certain parts of the process. And this would be your inspection contingency. So if your inspection contingency was the first 7 to 10 days of your contract, you would have that amount of time to not only do the inspections, but negotiate with the seller should you want to have any requests for repairs or credits based on any major issues on the home inspection. Now, of course, most homes are not brand new, so a house is going to always have some issues or some things, and the home inspection is basically letting you know what to expect short-term and long-term on maintaining the house. So we basically would make requests within reason. And if you guys aren't able to come to an agreement, you would cancel the contract as long as it's within that inspection contingency and get your escrow money deposit back. And so we're just going to backtrack a little back to the escrow money deposit, because once you go in the contract, you're putting in your escrow money deposit as your good faith and saying that you will fulfill your obligations in the purchase contract. And so we have Kevin Williams with First American Title, and to give us some tips and some important notes about how escrow works.
Hi, Ria, really quickly before we jump, there was a second part question from Amanda there. Did we see that? Ananda.
Okay, yeah, she said, got it. That those seem like the obvious inspections, but are there any that someone would not know? Yes. So just to touch on that, Ananda, it's basically what comes up in the home inspection. So what comes up in the home inspection may lead you to something else. For instance, there may be a tree root that is very close to the property, and you want to know if those roots are affecting any of the foundation of the home. And so from there, you may have an arborist come out and do some work, request to do some work to that tree. So basically, from what you see throughout the home inspection may lead you to request other inspections to go into further investigation on certain things that pop up with the house. And as we walk through the house and look at the disclosures of the properties, there may be some concerns with the electrical. So then maybe we might have an electrician come out during that inspection. So it's basically specific to the property, and as real estate professionals looking at the disclosures from the sellers, we can make that determination and let you know if there's additional ones that we need. Okay, so hopefully that answered. Okay, got it. Thanks. Okay, great. That answered her question. So Kevin?
Yes, ready to go. Okay, so pretty much when you come to escrow, when it's time to open escrow, usually everything is pretty much done as far as contracts are concerned. So give you an idea what we do for you. Let me just kind of describe what escrow is. Escrow is defined as a neutral third party that acts as a stakeholder between both buyer and seller. So in simple terms, consider the title company as a referee. Our job is to make sure both parties live up to their responsibilities within the transaction. So basically, the escrow officer's responsibility is to manage and exchange funds for the purchase of the property, okay? The buyer will deposit their funds and the seller will deposit a deed to the property and any other documents requiring to remove contingencies to purchase the property. So, depositing money into escrow. Once a purchase agreement is signed by all necessary parties, the real estate agent will open escrow with a copy of the purchase contract. The buyer at that time will be required to deposit an EMD, which is considered earnest money deposit, to the escrow holder. So from that point, the escrow holder will continue to follow mutual instructions from both the buyer and seller agents to ensure a fair advantage for both sides. Now, when following these instructions, we will also get instructions from the existing lender in regards to payoff information and so forth, and also the new lender in regards to your new loan. So the initial deposit, what we consider that is good faith funds towards the purchase of the property. So those funds could range from anywhere from $1,000 based on your purchase contract. So the escrow officer will lead and facilitate the escrow by providing escrow instructions based on the terms received by all parties. And then she will disperse funds at close of escrow. You want me to go farther?
Well, let's just we touched on the inspection, and we're going to talk about appraisal and loan next. What is the process at the point where the two parties cannot agree? What is the process in returning your earnest money deposit, and how does that work?
So if there's an issue where the two parties just don't agree, or the buyer finds some problems with the property and just don't want to move forward, we would have to have mutual instructions, cancellation instructions from both sides. Typically, both sides have to sign instructions, get that back to us. We are able to release the funds. Now, in some cases, depending on if you don't meet the criteria, like Rhea said, you have a certain time frame to get things done. If you go past that time frame, the seller may try to hold portion of that deposit. And then if that's the case, then unfortunately, we cannot release funds until everyone is in agreement. So typically that really don't happen, but it could happen.
Thank you. And then also, I just want to point out to buyers that when your earnest money deposit is due, on the contract, it states how many days of which you have to get the earnest money deposit to the escrow and title company. So one thing that you want to plan out with your is where your funds are coming from. Typically, we see delays in funds that are coming from 401k withdrawals. So if you are saying in your contract that your earnest money deposit will be deposited within 3 days, however, your 401k withdrawal takes 5 to 7, then you're out of contract. So those are some things to think about and plan ahead when you're writing the contract and letting your real estate professional know where your funds are coming from for that deposit.
And also, Rhea, one of the things that we do at First American, like I said earlier, we also have a copy of the contract as well. So our escrow officers will pay close attention in regards to the earnest money deposit, because it is a time frame where you do need to get that in, as you mentioned. And so if there is a day or so where behind the scheduled date of receiving those, we do reach out to the buyers to say, hey, we really need to get that in at this point. And in most cases, a lot of people like to wire their funds in, which makes it a lot quicker anyway. So we'll provide those documentations as well to wire funds.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we are moving on to appraisal. Let's see. Serena and Frankie.
Okay, so I'm here. We're going to have Frankie Hartwell is going to give us some information about appraisals and the need for appraisals. She's been doing appraisals since I think 1985, so in the Bay Area from Oakland. So she's very well versed to be able to help us understand appraisals and why we need appraisals as a protection for the buyers and their value and their interest in the properties.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
you. Can you? Okay, great. This is the part of the process where everyone holds their breath.
Right.
Because if the appraisal doesn't come through, it's like a house of cards and everything will just tumble down. So no pressure. The job of the appraiser is to find support for the sales price by current sales. Depending on the market, it could be 6 sales, it could be 3 sales, but most of the markets around the Bay Area are appreciating. And it's very important to have an accurate appraisal so that the buyer is protected, knowing what the value is at a certain point in the market. It's usually hired by the lender. The lender uses appraisal management companies, and this is where we run into problems because you may or may not receive an appraiser that is experienced in your area. So you always want to make sure that you have a local appraiser. And I know that people think that they can't pick their own appraiser, but you really can. You could at least request that your appraiser be a local appraiser. That's really critical. The fee is paid by the buyer through the lender. There's two types of inspections. There's the conventional one, which is easier. And the second one is the FHA inspection, which takes a little bit longer, where the appraiser crawls into the crawl space and the attic space. They range from $500 to $1,200, depending on what type of building it is. And it takes about 3 to 4 days ideally, but because there's a shortage of appraisers and the market is really busy, it's probably taken about a week. Once we finish the appraisal, we turn it into the lender, and the lender is waiting the minute we go out to the property. And after that, the appraisal works out, and then you can move forward to the next part of the loan.
Frankie, can you tell us about what you look at in an appraisal, as far as the size of the home, the location?
The main things are size, condition, location, and views. Those are the very main things. Everything else is mixed up in there, but those are the biggies. Those are the ones that buyers react to, and those are the things that will determine the value, but mainly condition. Condition is a big deal.
So if I had a client who is stating that they have a person with a similar like property that sold, and they're believing that property was about $50,000 more than what we're considering, or you're considering the property to be worth, what's something else we can do to help them look at comps? Like, how far out do you go, distance from the property, and how recent should those sales be?
Okay, in a typical market, and nothing is typical, it's probably between 2 and 3 months. Sometimes the neighborhood has not had a lot of turnover, and we may have to go 6, 8 months and make time adjustments. The market is just really moving that quickly. Did I answer that?
Okay. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned how quickly the market is moving, because I think that people aren't sure of, during the pandemic, if people are losing their jobs, or they're losing their homes. There's all this media talk on what's going on in the market, while we're steadily busy closing deals. I mean, it's been so busy over the last few months. And so I'm glad you touch, as an appraiser and looking at the properties, you're actually in the Bay Area, seeing that things are moving quickly and in abundance, and the values are appreciating. They're actually going up, not down.
That's correct. And there's a lot of, the only thing that I see that's changing is I see a lot of for rent signs. That's the only thing. But the market has continued to appreciate in Oakland, especially Berkeley, Alameda, San Leandro, Hayward. These properties are continuing to increase in value. Nothing is going down, not yet. I don't see that. And there's still multiple bids for properties that are on the market. And of course that bids it up. People are looking for their chance right now to get into the market. That's what's going on.
Definitely. Are there any questions for Frankie from the chat? So appreciating, does that mean the cost of homes are going up? Yes, for sure. Cost of home appreciation is basically the value of the properties going up, therefore the sales of properties are going up. Are there any other questions, even from the agents or anybody else on the call, being that we have a real live appraiser with us?
I do. I have been dealing with a lot of buyers that are trying to navigate kind of the loan process and the difference between FHA and conventional. So from an appraiser standpoint, what is the difference? We're often seeing differences as far as the FHA appraisals. What would you say the main difference is, if you consider there to be any?
Oh, sure. There's a big difference. FHA is really easy. It's misunderstood. You're going to get a home that is safe and sound and secure. You're not going to get a brand new home. You're not going to get a home that's in great condition. It's going to be livable and it's going to be safe. But with FHA, you're going to, the property has to do a little bit more for the buyer as opposed to conventional. And one of the big things between conventional and FHA is exterior paint. This is a deal killer. A lot of times I've gone to appraisals where the paint looks like potato chips. That's going to kill it for FHA. The main thing about FHA is exterior paint. It cannot be peeling. It cannot be chipping. That's a biggie. But everything else is more easily correctable than the paint. And a lot of agents don't realize that until it's too late.
Thank you.
Also, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say that everything with the house with FHA has to be working. You don't necessarily have to have a stove. That's a lender condition. But if you have a stove, then it needs to be working. If you have a dishwasher, it needs to be working. With conventional, they're a little less, antsy about things like that. But with FHA, it does challenge the homeowner just a little bit more than conventional. But conventional appraisals are a lot easier to approve than FHA based on those things. Like you can't have shaky rails. The whole thing with FHA is when I do an inspection, we're looking for health and safety hazards. That's the main thing. And these things are correctable. But the paint is a whole nother issue that, a lot of times it requires you to paint your house, which the buyer and seller are not really, they don't want to do that. So they ends up going conventional where they're less fussy.
So we do have a question, and it says, Vanetta asks, why is the paint critical in FHA? And Frankie, you want to touch on that? You mentioned the health and safety.
For sure, because it's lead-based mostly, and when you have children around, they put them in their mouths, and it's for lead poisoning. It's a health and safety. Paint chips that just fly everywhere are not safe. They're not safe for children and pets community. It's a health and safety hazard.
And I think that's the big difference with FHA. FHA focuses much more on health and safety issues than conventional.
Correct.
Chris, you had a question for Frankie. I don't know if you want to go ahead and ask in regards to the recent drive-by appraisals due to COVID.
Yeah, sure. So Frankie, just if I'm a home buyer, is there anything I should be thinking about? Should I have a preference one way or another? And from your perspective as an appraiser, have you seen any problems with properties hitting the contract price if you do or don't do an interior inspection versus an exterior only COVID drive-by appraisal? What's your perspective on that? I'm just generally curious.
Well, I haven't been doing the drive-bys. I really don't feel, unless I see the inside of it, unless it's sold just recently and I can see the interior on the MLS, I'm not comfortable in doing appraisals that way because we are on the hook for that. So I generally don't do them unless I was in there a year ago and I'm familiar with the property. I don't feel as confident, and I feel there's a lot of things that can go wrong and it goes right back to the appraiser. So I don't do them. Those are best for people that are doing small loans, like maybe 50,000, or someone who's doing a no cash out refi where the level of the loan is so low, then it really doesn't matter. But I kind of stay away from those.
Thank you, Frankie.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we're going to bounce back over to Chris. And so we talked about the inspections, we talked about the appraisal. So now we're going to bounce back over to Chris to talk about the loan contingency. So there's actually on your purchase contract a date of which you have to remove loan contingencies. And you think, why do I need that when I have my pre-approval? And Chris is going to tell us why.
Sure. So as we kind of hinted at earlier, a pre-approval is a basically a hypothetical scenario. Let's assume a picture perfect $600,000 house. Let's assume you have 10% down. Let's assume everything is perfect. You know, holding constant your income, your credit, and everything else. If that picture in time remains true and we do have a completely perfect property, are we going to be good to go? One of the big things that happens when you're actually under contract is, oh, look, now we have a contract, now we have a property, now we can review the actual appraisal that Frankie talked about. And the underwriter is going to also review the terms and conditions of the contract itself to make sure it adheres to market norms. So that's kind of the big difference. Is a pre-approval is a hypothetical. A conditional approval is after it's been to the credit decision-making underwriter with an actual property. It's also the case that after we pre-approve you, you might house hunt for 3 months. So the conditional approval is going to be the point at which we verify, okay, that's great that you had a job 3 months ago. Do you still have a job today? Do you still have the down payment funds? Is your credit still good? If you've been house hunting 3 months, we might have to run an updated credit report. So hopefully you did not, in the meantime, go take out a car loan that's $600 a month, because that could interfere with our ability to demonstrate that you can make the mortgage payments. So some of the bullet points on here that we want to talk about is credit. It is important that credit has been established with a good payment history. There's a big difference between bad credit and thin credit or no credit. Bad credit means you've taken out loans before and you've gone into default. You've stopped making those payments, or you've reneged on the agreement you made with your creditor or something like that. Thin credit is very different. All you have to do to get out of the thin credit bucket is go open a credit card or two, buy your significant other flowers once a month, and wait 3 or 4 months, and boom, now you've got decent credit. Job stability. A consistent job history with the same company is ideal, but not necessary. As we mentioned, as long as the new job, as long as there's reasonable career progression and you have a new job, your base salary can still count even if you haven't been on that job for 2 years. If changes have been made or advancement, it is acceptable. Yeah, that's right. One of the things they're also doing right now because of COVID-19, some lenders, not all, but some are requiring that you have been back on the job for a certain number of months. Other lenders aren't. So I'm an independent mortgage broker. I work with 38 different lenders. So part of my job is to navigate that for you and make sure we place this loan with a lender that's going to be a good fit for it. Income and debt to income ratios. Your gross monthly income before taxes is computed. Once in a blue moon, I have someone try and manipulate how much is taken out of their pay stub withholdings. I've also seen people attempt to manipulate their health insurance costs, and they're trying to do that to make their net income higher because they think that'll let them qualify for a bigger loan or a bigger house. We use your gross income before health insurance and before taxes and everything else, so there's no point in doing that. So please, I've also seen people stop contributing to their 401k. Please don't do any of that. Keep the good health insurance. Keep the good 401k contributions, and don't change how much you're giving to the taxman each time to try and manipulate how much you can get approved for. It's not going to make a difference. So keep doing the fiscally conservative, prudent things and contributing to your retirement and health insurance, etc. Bonuses, overtime, part-time, or self-employment income is averaged over the last 2 years. So as I mentioned, job changes are totally fine, but usually if your income relies a lot on bonuses, overtime, or part-time, usually a job change in that case is going to reset our ability to count that. So if you do get a lot of bonus, overtime, or part-time employment or something like that, I would encourage you to stick with what you're doing, buy the house, and then make the job change. But if you're going from a W-2 base salary based income to another W-2 base salary or hourly based income scenario, then go ahead and do it, not a big deal. Down payment, closing costs, and cash reserves. In most cases, these funds used in the transaction must be verified. Yes, so that is true. One thing that often comes up, and one big difference between that pre-approval and that conditional approval, is oftentimes when after someone's been pre-approved, they find $20,000 of money in $100 bills under the mattress, and they deposit that into their checking account, and they say, "Oh, great! Now I've got a bigger down payment." Unfortunately, 9/11 happened, and after 9/11, the Patriot Act was passed, and as a consequence of that, and I say this more or less as a joke, but it's got a lot of truth to that, we have to make sure that Al-Qaeda is not buying real estate in the United States. So they're going to verify all the money introduced in the transaction, and it is best, it will behoove you significantly. If you do have that stack of $100 bills or those gold bars, do not introduce those into the transaction without first talking to your loan originator about that. Property. The property is the security for the loan. The lender will require an appraisal by a certified fee appraiser to assure that there is sufficient collateral. Chris, to talk about appraisal waiver, sure. So usually when the world is not the crazy world of 2020, there's basically one type of appraisal. You order an appraisal, the appraiser goes to the property, they inspect the interior of the property, and you get the appraisal back. Right now, there's 3 different types of appraisals that are going on. One is the traditional interior-only inspection, which, as Frankie mentioned, she strongly prefers. The other one is this newfangled COVID exterior-only appraisal, which I, as the loan originator, prefer because they come back faster and with less hassle. But old school traditional appraisers such as Frankie, it's to her credit that she doesn't like them. It's not a bad thing, because that makes sense. The third thing is that for scenarios with more than 20% down, about 60% of the time, the computers are not requiring an appraisal at all. And so for that, if you do get an appraisal waiver, you want to make sure that you definitely get an inspection for your protection. That's always true, but that is doubly true if you're not getting an appraisal because the lender isn't requiring one. In that case, even if the lender doesn't require an appraisal, you still have the option to hop on Google, hop on Yelp, find your own appraiser that you like, and order that appraisal independent of the lender, in which case you are the client and the appraisal is done for you and your peace of mind. It's just not required by the lender. Ria, is there anything else you want me to touch on for this, or?
Well, we have a question.
Yeah.
And the question is, if I have a co-buyer who doesn't have a job but has money from inheritance, how does that work? So they may be talking about, can they go on a loan, or maybe you can also touch on gift money.
Got it. So your sister, as a co-borrower, if she doesn't have income, she wouldn't necessarily add strength to the loan application. If she wanted to, so we could put her on the loan if we wanted to, it just wouldn't be adding anything to the strength of the application. She could be on title if she wanted to without being on the loan. She could also gift you that money as a down payment gift and help you in that way. Does that answer the question, you think, Ria, or Anna?
Yeah, and so you
Ananda?
can just let her know, how does that work? So you basically talk about just writing a gift letter, sending the money to escrow. How does that work?
Yeah, so the loan originator will give you basically a blank template gift letter with blanks for you to fill in, like who the gift donor is and how much they're gifting you and what account it's coming from. The gift donor will be required to provide a copy of the bank statement to show where that money is coming from, just to show that, again, it's a joke, not joke, just to make sure it's not from Al-Qaeda. And then she transfers the easiest way to do it, and your loan originator will talk to you about this once you are in contract. The easiest way to do it is to have your sister send the money directly to escrow. Early in the transaction, you will receive something called what's it called? Wire instructions. And that's where you make your earnest money deposit. That is also where you could have your gift donor send the money. You also receive a document from your realtor called the Wire Fraud Advisory, and it is important to read that document. Your realtor at that point will also probably give you a lecture on wire fraud, what it looks like, how to watch out for it. A very common thing right now is for fraudsters to pretend to be escrow officers and interject themselves and give you fake wire instructions. So your realtor can talk about how to avoid that. We want to purchase together. Cool. Yeah, so the question from Ananda is that we want to buy the house together. Great. You could totally do that. You could put her on the loan if you want, or you could have her not on the loan. Either way, she could still be on title as an equal owner to the house, just like you.
Right. So if she's on title, she's an equal owner, and if she's on the loan, the only thing is, where's her credit, right? So is her credit within the guidelines of the lender?
Yeah, that's right.
She doesn't have a job.
One thing that you might want to consider in that scenario is if the sister is not adding income, then she's not strengthening the application. If she is hypothetically not on the loan and also not on title, then she would be preserving her first-time homebuyer status. So if there's a possible scenario when in 3 or 4 years she wants to buy her own house, but she's short on funds because she just gave you all that money to buy the house that you're living in, there's a scenario where if she was not on title and not on the loan, then she is technically still a first-time home buyer, so she could take advantage of one of those down payment assistance programs if she wanted to. But if you don't think that's likely, if you think this is going to be the house that me and my sister are going to live in for the next 20 years, then sure, put her on loan if you want, put her on title, no big deal, nothing lost.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Cheers.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Say if I want to build my credit, is it better to get a secured credit card or a regular credit card?
Sure. So usually the secured credit card is something that you do if you have to. They usually have higher interest rates, and they're also secured by money. So you have to so for those that are unaware, a secured credit card is a credit card that you can get like if you have absolutely no credit established at all. And basically what it will be is you deposit $500 in the bank, and they give you a $500 credit card, and it's kind of a learning tool with like training wheels. I mean, you can't really go into default on it because you put that $500 in the bank to start with, so it's secured by that. So if you do go into default, they're just going to take that $500 back. So it's kind of a trainer credit card, but it lets you establish an on-time payment history and do that. Another trick for people with thin credit that are younger and just starting out in life, another trick you can do, if someone in your life that you know, trust, and love has a credit card that's say 5 or 10 years old and has never shown a late payment, If you had that person add you as an authorized user to that credit card, about 70% of the time, your credit report will inherit the full on-time payment history of that 10-year-old credit card. And you can go from like, I don't have a FICO score because I don't have established credit, to boom, 800 FICO score in like a month, because you inherit that 10-year history of on-time payments.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it best to go into buying a house with zero debt? I've just paid off everything and I'm looking to get just the best that I can get. And I'm thinking if you have no debt, then there's nothing to argue with your debt to income ratio. Is that a good thing? Is a good thing.
And the most common thing millennials do, and that's most providers right now are millennials. Are you asking for yourself or are you asking for a hypothetical home buyer?
I'm asking for myself.
Okay. Don't stress out too much over that. It is the case. Let's say there's a $400 car payment and you're thinking of just paying off the car loan. Let's say we're just going to hypothetical. Let's hypothetically assume you have a car loan, $400 a month, and $10,000 outstanding balance. If you pay that off, you cannot unpay it off. By contrast, if you leave the car loan in place and you go talk to a loan originator, it is the case. Maybe you need that $10,000 for the down payment, and if you pay the car off, then you can't undo that, and you're done. So what I would suggest is just assuming you've got a decent FICO score and everything else, just go with what you've got for now. And if your loan originator tells you, hey, I see we've got this $10,000 extra. I see we've also got this car loan. You'd have a little more buying power to pay this car off, and you would have the option. It could also be the case that the loan originator says, hey, that $10,000 would be best spent on moving to 5% down from 3.5% down, and here's why that financing is better. And he'll be able to give you that option, or she will be able to give you that option. But if you pay those debts off ahead of time, then you don't have the option of unpaying those debts off. Does that make sense? Because there are scenarios where that $10,000 would be better put to use on increasing your down payment than it would be put to use on paying off the car. But if you pay it off, you don't get to explore those scenarios because what's done is done. It's water under the bridge. There's no time travel allowed, and you can't undo it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. We have one other question. How much money is ideally good to have in savings? So, Chris, I know it's going to be based on the purchase price, the neighborhood, the value of the home, and getting down payment assistance. But do you want to just touch on that?
Sure. The more money you have to invest in your first home purchase, the better financing will be available to you. So how much money is ideally good? The more the merrier is kind of the best answer I can give you. If you have 15% down saved up, I can show you 15% down options, 10%, 5, 3.5. But if you only have 10% down, I can't show you that 15% down option because it's not there. So the financing does get progressively better the more you have saved up. But nonetheless, it is also the case that interest rates are so freaking low right now that, I mean, it's hard not to get a great mortgage. I mean, rates are in the twos. That's never happened before. And we've got some people that were in the mortgage industry 5 or 6 years ago. Has anyone here that is not currently in the mortgage industry ever done a 30-year fixed mortgage with rates in the twos?
No.
I'm the only one that's done that because I'm in the mortgage industry and it's 2020. That is a new thing that has never happened before. That is historically unprecedented. It's pretty close to free money if you factor in inflation. Inflation is usually 2 to 5% per year. So if you borrow money and the interest on that is 2 point something or other percent, and inflation is 2 point something or other percent, it's a wash. It's free borrowed money. So even if, I mean, it is also the case that with the government printing as much money as they have done, I'm not an economist. I don't have a PhD, and if someone with a PhD tells you differently, you should listen to them. But it seems like when they're printing trillions of dollars out of thin air, that we might encounter inflation at some point. Something to think about with that is let's think through inflation. Let's say between now and X years from now, there's 20% inflation. So a gallon of milk is 20% more expensive. A box of donuts is 20% more expensive. Rent is 20% more, but your income is also 20% more in theory. So it's all a wash, right? The only thing that doesn't go up 20% is that 30-year fixed rate mortgage with an interest rate in the twos that you got back in 2020. If the payment on that is $3,000 a month, it stays $3,000 a month. But we just said we had 20% inflation, so you got a 20% pay raise, but the mortgage payment stays the same. That means that over time, as inflation happens, the monthly payment becomes more affordable because of inflation. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, definitely. And then also, I just want to say too, when it comes to savings, it's just basically you can also work backwards. So you take the area of which you're looking to purchase, and let's say the average purchase price is 550,000. You have to talk to a lender and see what if you qualify for down payment assistance, what programs you qualify for, and what the requirements are. And then then you work backwards from there. So if you have savings, then you may be in a good spot. If you're almost there, then from a pre-approval, you'll know what you need to get to in order to get into a home based on things like down payment, closing costs, and what's available to you in down payment assistance. So it varies based on what area you're purchasing in, and a lot of different factors. So that's why a pre-approval is so instrumental prior to you going into the home search.
Can I add something, Rhea?
Sure.
This is Claudia. So I would like to ask Chris to talk a little bit about going his PMI rant that he mentioned, because this whole inflation thing and how economics works is very important to think about. The whole saving the 20%. I have buyers who've been looking for years and trying to save the 20% down, which I know he talked about in the beginning, but that reason people want to save 20% down is because they want to avoid paying PMI, which is the mortgage insurance that you do have to pay if you don't have the 20%. But I'll let him go on his rant.
Sure. So I touched on it a little bit earlier. As Frankie, our real live appraisal, has told us, real estate values are going up right now. This is not 2008 2.0. We are seeing asset inflation. You can call it appreciation if you want, but values are going up at a precipitous rate. And for the hypothetical scenario I mentioned earlier, a hypothetical $685,000 house with 5% down and good credit, the PMI is going to be $130 a month. That is not crazy, and that works out to an annualized rate of 0.24%. So the cost of waiting to save up means that, sure, you're saving that 0.24%, but the house that you end up buying just went up in value over the course of time while you were saving. So if real estate is appreciating, let's pick a really conservative figure. Let's say Bay Area real estate on average appreciates 3% per year. That is a ridiculously conservative number. But let's assume that's all the appreciation there is. And let's also assume that it's going to take you 5 years to save up the other 15% to go from 5% down to 20% down. That real estate's going to keep appreciating. So that real estate just went up in value, 25%. And you, by foregoing the 5% down option you had in 2020, I'm sure you saved 0.24%. You saved 0.24%, congratulations, but now you got to pay 25% more for the house. So did you really save money? It's not clear to me at all that you saved money. And it will also be the case that in all probability, in 5 years, by the time you're done saving up that last 15% down, it will probably be the case that rates are no longer in the twos. That is something that is never been true before, and I don't know if it's ever going to be true again. That is a 2020 thing. That is, 2020 is a really tough year for everyone. I want to acknowledge that. It's tough for everyone. It's challenging. It's 2020, right? Everything's bad. The one good thing we have right now, the one good thing, is mortgage interest rates. So I think it would be worth really considering that if you are not currently a homeowner. And I kind of went off of the rent I was supposed to do, but I think that was still good information.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing off of piggyback from Chris? If you wait 5 years, you won't be able to afford anything. That was kind of like my mistake. I lost a lot of things in the crash of 2008, and I just sat down and I think I'm going to sit this out for a minute, which I should not have done. By the time I was ready to get up and going, those prices had jumped up so high, they were unaffordable. So
Yes.
There's an old saying that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is right now.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. So we're back at Kevin now, just talking about, just to touch on the title report. So basically we talked about inspections, appraisals, loans. Another thing that is really important is the person selling you the house, do they have rights to sell you the house, right, Kevin?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's probably the most important thing, to be honest with you. So after we open the escrow, typically we will issue what we call a preliminary title report within probably 24, 48 hours. And what that report does is that it details the property's history regarding any exceptions, meaning liens that may be attached to the property before the buyer actually take possession of the property. So again, as a new buyer, you would not want to, take over someone else's debt. So our job as a title company is to make sure that we're going to give you a property that is free and clear. So some of the judgments that we normally will clear and remove from our title report will be unpaid property taxes, outstanding loans, if any, first, second mortgages, child support liens, IRS liens, unpaid student loans, contract work done on the property but was never paid for. For example, the current owner may want to put a new roof on the property for whatever reason, didn't like the work, decided not to pay the contractor. Contractor decided to put a lien against the property. So that lien will stand until that person either sell the property or refinance. That's the only way that they can protect the work that was done on their property and so forth as far as the contractor is concerned. So our job as a title provider is that we have to release or remove these liens, and usually they're either paid off in full before the new owner take possession of the property. And this is also a requirement of your new lender. Again, your new lender wants you as a new buyer to have a free and clear title going into it very clean. So that's what we do. So the title policy also is designed to reduce other risks that may be attached to the property. For example, Rhea kind of touched on it. Some of the other items that we saw in the past that was unbelievable, but it does happen where, for example, you may be dealing with an improper deed or something that was provided by an individual that was single or supposedly single, but the person is married. And so he's trying to sell the property without the spouse knowledge. Came across that before. Came across also impersonating the true property owner. And one just happened last week where we had an individual that was unfortunately was mentally challenged, and he was trying to sell this property, but you have to be legally stable to sell real estate. And so unfortunately that did happen, and we see fraud and forgeries. So those are all the things that we try to protect. And one of the items that we saw 2 weeks ago where an individual was the administrator of a trust, and the person was trying to sell the property, but unfortunately or fortunate, the owner of the trust, he wasn't deceased. And the individual was still trying to move on, trying to sell. So these are the things that we are hired to do to prevent from happening, to make sure there's not a cloud on the title when you take possession of the property. Okay, and if you're getting a loan, and which I would assume you probably are from a lender, your lender is going to require that you you have title insurance anyway. So that's just a must. Now there are actually two types of policies that will be issued. One is for the owner and also owner title policy. Another is for the lender. The lender have to be protected as well. And that protection lasts as long as you own the property. But until you refinance or sell the property, that's when the coverage stops. The buyer is also responsible for the cost for both the lender and the owner title policy. And that's a one-time fee paid at close of escrow. Okay. I guess I'm doing vesting now, correct?
Yeah, if you want to just touch on it.
Yeah. So vesting, method of holding title. There are actually 4 different ways that you can hold title. Tenant in common, joint tenant, community property, and community property with rights of survivorship. Unfortunately, title companies cannot choose which way you want to take title. What I would suggest, if you're uncertain, either consult with a attorney, CPA, or better yet, a trusted family friend that purchased property in the past. But in regards to tenant in common, usually that's 2 or more individuals. Usually we see brother, sister, friend taking title this way. Ownership is equal or unequal, and in the event of someone passing away, they could pass that property or their piece on to their heirs by a will if they choose to. Then you have joint tenant. Usually it's done by husband and wife. It could be domestic partners as well. Interest is equal. If someone passes away, the surviving individual get full authority of that property. And then we have community property, again, husband, wife, domestic partners. Interest is equal. If someone passes away, it's not automatically passed, the other piece is not automatically passed on to the surviving spouse. The person that passed away, they could actually will their piece to someone else if they choose to. But community property rights of survivorship, you can, there's only one way, no exceptions. The person that survived, they will get ownership of that property. And if you're coming in as a single individual, you just take ownership as a single individual. And that's pretty much the vesting.
Thank you. Thank you again, Kevin.
Okay. I didn't want to go too fast, but I knew I was under a time frame.
Right. No, that's
Okay.
good. So
Okay.
we want to, and the goal is to kind of touch on everything. And that's something that we touched on so that individuals can actually go and investigate further, like you said, with an so now we have Lanice, you want to bring in Sam? You and Sam want to take over for home insurance?
Yes. Okay, so Sam, I'm a buyer and I just got my offer accepted. And I'm getting ready, the contract's written up and everything. And the lender says, hey, you know what, do you have home insurance? And home insurance, I didn't know I need that. Why is it important to have home insurance? And if I have HOA, I didn't tell you that I had that until later. What happens?
You made it. First off, thank you. And I always tell first time home buyer. Well, I just want to start off by saying thank you for everyone, and for those listening. I bought my first home in '76 and had nothing like this what we're doing today. So this is awesome that buyers and current professionals understand this. Don't tell small-minded people your big ideas. Go make it happen. Talk to professionals and leave your family out of this. To get back to your question, Anise, when you first start, you need to know if you're going to buy a home or a condo or townhouse. Because association fee is $500, or if you buy a single-family home, it give you $125. The difference between $50 a month could make or break the deal, and your loan officer knows that, because for each $100, that's $10,000 in buying power. So it's very important to understand what are you going to buy: a single-family home or a condo or townhouse. Okay, insurance is very important because your lender requires it. If you're doing a loan, financing your property, you cannot close the escrow without insurance unless you're paying cash. So there again, unless you're paying cash, you have to have insurance.
Okay. And how much coverage should I have?
That's going to depend on, you need to always cover the loan amount at least. I kind of take an old rule that the house is like $300,000. The land is not going anywhere. So you don't have to insure the land. And that's a lot of times people, I need to insure that if I'm not putting any money, I'm putting down only 3%. Well, you know, that's fine, but the land is not going to burn. If you have a total loss, you still have the land. So unless the lender requires you have more insurance than 80% of the value, you don't have to have it.
Okay. So what's covered, protected in the policy? Probably know that.
Fire and theft, water damage, and a lot of people will say my pipe burst on me. And so I say, okay, fine. We'll take care of the damage that the water caused, but we don't repair the water heater. That's why you have a home inspection report, a home inspection warranty that's usually paid by the seller in case something like that happens, like a garage door malfunctions, or hot water heater, or garbage disposal, or dishwasher. That comes on your home warranty. So we'll take care of all the things listed on your deck page, like fire and theft, vandalism, personal property. Those things are covered in your homeowner's policy as a whole, even mold up to a percentage.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. Now, do I need liability or?
Yeah, you have to have, I do all my liability, all my policies, whether the condo or townhouse, at $1 million liability. We're in Sue Happy, California. Your best friend, your cousin, mother, father, whoever comes to your house, they happen to fall and hurt themselves. They say, I love you, Lanice, but I can't work, I'm hurt.
Okay, now the other day we talked about a tree in front of the house. How important is it?
More a year on the policy. So
I think you're going in and out.
Well, if we come out and see, if you live in the forest per se, okay, and I come by or I go to Google.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, I can't hear him.
Uh-oh. Yeah, Sam, maybe Sam can dial in. It looks like his,
Picture's going too.
let's see. Okay, so we'll see if we can get Sam to dial in for the voice portion. Lenise, you want to text him with the
Yes.
invite information that has the dial-in number so he
Yes.
can continue that. While we're waiting on Sam, it looks like we have some questions. So if you own land, is it cheaper to build? And there are programs that allow you to actually purchase land and build from the ground up. And yes, it is cheaper. It can be cheaper. It is a process. And so you have to work closely with a lender that offers the construction, what's called a construction to perm loan program, which is a whole nother topic or video that I could share with you. But I do work with developers and I can provide you offline more information on how to build from the ground up. Let's see.
Can I add a little bit to that, Ria? Because I have several buyers that are wanting to do that, building from scratch.
Yeah, sure.
I did put it in the chat, so I won't make it very long so people can read it on the chat. But one of the most expensive things about building from scratch is developing the lot itself to make it buildable. Is it a flat lot? It does have a building pad. Then you have to bring in the utilities. So it is it's a lot more expensive. You have to have more money up front. There are those types of loans out there. They usually do require a lot more down than your typical already built home. And to answer the question, is it cheaper? It's relative, right? It can be, but if you take into account all of the expense at the beginning and, just construction, for example, construction is very expensive here because wages are higher as well for all of those professionals. So permitting a loan, depending on, I do tell people you better pick your county if you're going to build from scratch, because it's a process to deal with the city and county to get permitting and all of that. So
yeah,
Let me go back to.
Yeah, Sam is back. Thanks, Sam, for rejoining.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see me? I'm there. Or?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
I just asked you to start your video, so if you want to.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Okay. Sam, you still there? Okay. Looks like we're having some.
Again.
Yeah. So so basically while Sam is getting back on is one thing he did touch on is the difference between home insurance and home warranty. So we don't have anyone to speak to home warranty on the call today.
There
okay.
he is.
Hey, Sam.
You there, Sam? He's calling from Las Vegas, so it's probably.
Hey, Ria.
Yeah.
So for HomeGuard, if anybody wants any information on home warranties, we do those as well. And you can go on our website.
Hold on.
On HomeGuard's website, and it'll go all through our home warranty division as well.
Okay, good. Yeah. So so you guys have, I didn't even know you guys offered home warranty. That's great.
Yep. And we have a new contract. There's a lot of great stuff on it. And of course, even when I bought my rentals, I have home warranties on them for the first year on both. So it's a great added feature and it's great protection for you too. So I recommend it.
Okay. Okay. Sam, you want to take over?
Sam? I think he went off again.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hey, Rhea.
Yeah.
Sue. So he was talking about the tree.
Yeah.
And what I experienced on one of my rentals in Martinez was, of course, it's the tree itself. You're looking at what can be hanging over your house and everything else, but also what it might do, a big enough tree or whatnot can do to your sewer line going to the front of your house. So you want to always take that into consideration, that something, you know, you can always do a sewer lateral inspection to make sure that those tree roots haven't broken into the sewer. And of course, if the sidewalk in front of your property has been upended, in a lot of communities, you're responsible for that too. So as a trip hazard, you know, you may want to look at the sidewalk in front of your house, because a lot of cities, you're responsible for it too, and what a tree might do to that.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that. And so, so what we'll do is we'll definitely share Sam's information. He's having some technical difficulties, but you'll all have his information that have joined the call today. And I can definitely tell you that Sam is a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure he'd be happy to meet with people one-on-one regarding insurance and how that works, especially being that they provide a variety of different types of insurance as well. So I want to thank Sam for joining us and being able to provide us some information, and we'll get his contact information to everyone. So we're going to just go ahead and move on to the final walkthrough. So this is the portion of the process where you are basically removed all your loan contingencies, your appraisal and inspection contingencies, and at this point you are looking to close. So the final walkthrough is not an inspection where you're still in a negotiation process. This is more basically to ensure that the house is in the condition of which you saw it. There's no like couch that was removed and there's a big hole in the wall that you didn't see there before. So the final walkthrough happens usually within about 5 days prior to your closing of your transaction. Okay, and next we have loan closing costs. So now we're at the closing table and we're ready to sign the loan docs. You're ready to become a homeowner, and I just wanted to talk about closing costs and have Chris talk about closing costs, because at the beginning you get a loan estimate, you're thinking about your down payment, but sometimes you forget about those closing costs. And so Chris, can you just touch on what are closing costs?
Sure. So closing costs are various third-party things that first-time homebuyers often don't think about. Oftentimes what'll happen is someone will hop on Google, they'll Google search, what's the lowest down payment thing out there. They find out about FHA 3.5% down. They take out their calculator and they want to buy a $550,000 house. So they multiply 550,000 by 3.5%, and they go, okay, that's how much money I need. There you go, I'm ready. Closing costs are usually a big surprise. They're also somewhat unusually high in the East Bay because many cities have their own city transfer tax. Generally speaking, ballpark plan on about 1.5 to 2% extra on the sales price for third-party closing costs. As part of my initial conversation with someone, usually I go over every single closing cost specific to them and specific to the city they're looking at, because closing do vary by city. Let me think. What am I supposed to talk about here? Title, recording fees, and transfer taxes. Yep, I talked about transfer taxes, title and recording fees. Title and escrow companies, they charge fees for their title insurance. It's not free. I mean, it's when you think about title insurance, if it's a $500,000 house, that's a $500,000 insurance policy. So you bet it's not free. Prepaids and escrows. Back in 2006, something that would happen was you had people get these ridiculous loan programs that should never have existed. So you had people with $300 in their checking account buying houses, 0% down and all this crazy stuff. And what happened with a lot of those people is the very first time a property tax bill came, they couldn't pay it. So they immediately went into tax default. As a consequence of that, now, if you are putting less than 10% down, some lenders will do it at 5% down, but usually 10%. But if you're using one of the low down payment options, the bank is going to budget for your property taxes and homeowners insurance on your behalf. And when you make your monthly payment, a portion of that is going to include 1/12 of your annual property tax bill, and then they make that payment when the bill comes. In order to establish that escrow account, this is usually the biggest single line item closing cost for people that are putting lower down payments. They're going to require typically between 6 and 10 months of property taxes paid up front at the closing table. So that is often the biggest single line item closing cost is your own property taxes. It is also the case that the escrow officer is going to prorate the property taxes such that it's fair to you and the seller, meaning there's not going to be one day where you own the house, but they've already paid the property tax bill, and there's not going to be one day where they own the house, but you're paying their property taxes. So for example, if the seller has already paid their property taxes a year in advance, then you owe them some amount of money, which the escrow officer will prorate fairly in order to compensate them for paying the property taxes for a period of time that you own the house. That's the biggest single line item closing cost we typically see is the prepaid property taxes. Number two, if it is in Oakland or Berkeley or Richmond or many of the East Bay cities that have a city transfer tax, that is typically the second largest closing cost. Loan-related fees, origination, application. Plan on about typically $1,000 to $1,500 in lender fees, depends on this, that, and the other. You will have the option if you want of investing upfront in something called discount points, which is an opportunity if let's say for your scenario, the rate comes back at 2.75%, and you say, no, Chris, that's not good enough for me. I want something better than 2.75%. First of all, recognize that that is a historically low interest rate. That's unprecedented. It's crazy. But if you still want it even lower, you have the option to pay upfront a little bit extra. Effectively, it's prepaid interest, and that will lower the permanent 30-year fixed interest rate that you get if you want to. Mortgage insurance, one of the big differences between FHA and conventional loans. Actually, I might as well take this opportunity to talk about some of the specific differences between FHA and conventional. As Frankie, our appraiser, mentioned, FHA loans have higher appraisal standards. They also require slightly higher fees rolled into your loan balance. Specifically, FHA loans have the upfront mortgage insurance premium. Another downside of FHA loans is that the mortgage insurance is permanent. With a conventional loan, once you have the equity, you can petition your lender to drop the mortgage insurance and keep the loan you locked in when you bought the house. I'm trying to do most of my clients with conventional loans right now because I don't feel these low interest rates are going to be here forever. So if you have an FHA loan, let's say you buy a house with an FHA loan, 3.5% down, and then in 5 years, you have the equity and you want to drop the mortgage insurance, the only way to do that with an FHA loan is to refinance. By contrast, a conventional loan, you can keep the interest rate you locked in back in 2020 when rates were in the twos, keep that interest rate and just drop the mortgage insurance without refinancing. FHA loans are also seen as weaker offers in the eyes of listing agents. Listing agents are, in our area, they're judgmental about the type of loan the buyer's using, and conventional loans are preferred to FHA loans by listing agents. If there's two identical offers, same price, same closed escrow, same everything, but one's conventional, one's FHA, most listing agents will advise their seller to take the offer from the conventional buyer. Property specific and or third party fees, appraisal. The appraisal fee is paid up front. Out of all the closing costs, the appraisal is the only one that you don't get back if you decide not to buy the house, and it's the only one you pay up front. And that is because the appraisers can go out there and do their job and appraise the house. They deserve to be compensated even if you don't move forward and buy the house. All other closing costs are typically only paid at and if you actually close. Termite report, I think we already had that talked about. Surveys are not commonly done in the Bay Area, once in a while, but not always. Attorneys, if you elect to have a real estate attorney, that would be something that you'd be paying for, and home inspections. Actually, home inspections are also paid up front, and you don't get that money back if you don't buy the house. And the way to think about that, sometimes I'll hear someone say, oh, hey, I wasted $500 on an inspection fee because the inspector told me that the roof was imploded and the foundation was collapsing. You did not waste $500. That was the best $500 you ever spent. Do you realize what that saved you from? So that's just my 2 cents on people when they say that they wasted money on the inspection. Like, you didn't waste money. It saved you 20, 30, however many thousands of dollars that fix would have been. Let's see. Consider asking your bank to wire the funds to escrow. Yep. Cool. Yep. Bring valid photo ID. One thing that we are seeing come up is the California Department of Motor Vehicles hasn't really been in operation. So some people have had their driver's license expire, and then they're trying to buy a house, but the photo ID is expired. So what does the notary do? So that is something that we've seen come up. So one thing to think about is if you're thinking of buying a house, after we get off this phone, after we get off this Zoom meeting, take out your driver's license, find out when it expires, make sure you're not going to come up against that issue.
Chris, can you, I think
yes,
people might have, can you talk a little bit about that there actually are several conventional products that are very similar to FHA, just to clarify to people that, they can use FHA, but if you can get a conventional product that is very similar to FHA, then why not go to conventional, right? Especially with the whole refinancing that you're required to do.
Sure. So for purchase prices below $520,000, there are conventional 3% down options, which are very similar to FHA. Big differences: number one, less fees. Number two, you can drop the mortgage insurance and keep the interest rate and the mortgage you locked in when you bought the house. And number three, considered more appealing to sellers. So under 500, if you take $526,186, you multiply by 90%, you arrive at the conventional conforming loan limit in the Bay Area, which is 510. But anyways, under $526,000, you can do 3% down conventional, which is often better financing than FHA 3.5% down. Over that price point, up to $765,000 ballpark, you can do 5% down. And it's right now it's very compelling. The interest rates are ridiculously low right now.
Thank you, Chris. I just wanted to check in, Sam.
Hey, Sam, you're back.
I'm back. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you loud and clear now.
I don't know.
Okay.
So, so yeah, we just want to just scroll back to Sam. The power of video. I can always edit this it's for a good flow. But go ahead, Sam.
Sam, you were talking about trees.
Oh, and trees are a major issue with, I say with farmers at least. If we pull up for the, I'll Google the property further. I see a
Oh no.
big tree, we're not going to insure you. So that's a major issue. If you live in a forest area, if you live like in Montclair, where it's a high fire area, it's going to require two policies: the basic policy with farmers or State Farm or whatever company, and California Fair Plan. So if you live in those areas, you're looking at insurance costs in a year's premium about maybe $5,000. And that's going to affect, like Chris was saying, it's going to affect your income to debt ratio. It's very important you know where you're buying, because that $200 more additional insurance costs could kill the deal. The same thing with the HOA. We need to know the difference if you're buying a single family home on HOA or what we call a townhouse, because if you have $500 HOA fees, that's like $200 difference or $20,000 in lost buying power. So understand what you're buying and make sure you work with your lender that so they can make sure you qualify and not get to the end of the road and find, oh, I can't buy this house now. So it's very important to understand what you're buying and where you're buying at. Okay.
Also, right now with the fires, do you cover certain areas, or you don't cover any areas right now where the fire zone is?
Right now, basically all of California is burning, okay? So there's very few zip codes that you can get insurance on right now. So the only saving grace is I had one that Denise knows we just closed on because I had already submitted the insurance, the quote at least, and I can show documentation before we got a restriction on certain zip codes. So as long as I did that before and in the process of closing, we were able to go ahead and close. But had we not done that, say 2 weeks ago, they would not be able to close today. In other words, if you call and they say, hey, Sam, I want to buy in Vacaville, you can't get insurance. I can't even submit it in my system. It'll lock me out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one guy called me. He said, Sam, I should have worked with you sooner. I'm like, well, you know, so I've been just a long time. I know what I'm doing. And so that was a great one that Lisa and I closed on and no problems. And he's closed. And also, and they told me, well, Sam, there's no insurance. I'm like, I didn't even buy it because I knew right away. Once I submitted it and I got proof that I submitted before the fire was restricted, if the house burned down, guess what? We still have to pay for it.
Wow.
He would be covered. They would be covered.
Yeah, we got lucky with that one because Fairfield was the home that we just closed on, and it was coming that way. Thank God it didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But had it come that way, he'd have been recovered. They would have investigated it, they would have to pay for it.
Okay. Now, what is building ordinance or law? What's that?
So building ordinance and laws is, so if you had, I'll say, if you had a total, we had to build a house back to codes. So whatever county or city you're living in, what are their codes? As you well know, any new home now has sprinkler systems. Well, all the older homes now, none of them have a sprinkler system. So building it back to code means that we had to build it back with water, with sprinkler systems. I may be a gas shut-off value. May require double pane windows. So what are new updates or what are new codes or laws that a county or city may have on a total rebuild? We got to build it back to those codes. So what percentage do you need on that? You can't just go with a standard 10% that comes with the policy. You may need, my job is to make sure you put down at least on rebuilding back to code. So I do them all at a minimum of 25%. If it's a Victorian, I do them at 50% building code, rebuild, because it's going to cost a lot more to do on a Victorian than it would a, say, a house that's going to be 15 years old.
Okay. And explain an umbrella policy.
An umbrella policy? So the way I do an umbrella policy is I'll give you an example. I met a couple up in actually it's American Canyon. I got to their home and they had minimum liability limits on their auto of 100, 300. And I just asked the wife, I said, if you had an accident or someone came in and fallen and hurt yourself, what do you stand to lose? And she just, I'm worth over $2 million. Like, what? So automobile limits were under limits, under the normal limits she should have had as far as an automobile. And plus she only had $500,000 on her home. So an umbrella would cover additional like $1 million or $2 million in case someone comes to your house and falls and get hurt. They're gonna sue you. They love you, but they're gonna say, I'm hurt. So what do you stand to lose? So this is where an umbrella policy would come in. You'd have $1 million on your home already, do $1 million umbrella. Now you protect up to at least $2 million. So that's not counting the assets you may have for the investment. So you have to find out how much a person really, what their net worth would be, and you write an umbrella policy to make sure you cover them. One guy, for an example, had like 18 properties and he wouldn't get an umbrella policy with me and he hit a pedestrian.
Oh my goodness.
Umbrella policy. So the fortunate thing with him is that the kid disappeared and the attorney disappeared. He would have been responsible for contributory negligence because he said he never saw the kid. The kid ran out between two cars. So what was he doing? Was he distracted with a kid in the car? And he told it to the underwriter. Had he seen the kid, then fine, he would have been still protected, but he didn't even have an umbrella policy. Believe me, after it all disappeared, he came back at his umbrella policy. So umbrella policies will save all your hard-earned money or your investments in what you've worked over the years. So a lot of people don't have it because the agents don't talk about it, but it's key in my agency. You have to have, if you have a home and if you have a child under 26 years of age in your home, you will be getting an umbrella policy. Think about when you got your car, the first time you got your parents' car, what did you do? And it's laughed all over the room because you did things that your parents to this day don't know what you did. You need an umbrella policy to keep your stuff.
Now, what about earthquake insurance?
It's optional. Very few people have it. It comes with various deductibles. If your home is first $500,000, you get a 10% deductible. That's $50,000, meaning that we would pay anything over the $50,000, but that first $50,000 is on you. So it comes with 5, 10, 15, 20% deductibles. And based on, then you can get breakables, meaning your personal property inside the house, if you want those things covered, or you just want the structure. So you have two different options on it, and the deductible varies. On the higher the deductible, the lower your cost, but the more exposure you have is for you're responsible for that first $50,000 or $100,000. And if you don't have those funds, liquid, then how are you going to fix your home? And people say, oh, the federal government will fix my house. No, that's a loan you have to qualify in the FEMA. FEMA just don't give you the loan. You have to qualify for the FEMA loan.
Okay. And what's the best way to keep a list of all the items in your house that are insured?
What's this right here?
Your phone?
Your phone. Take pictures. I was saying pictures worth 1,000 words. So take pictures of all your personal items. And then any major item you purchase from that point in time on, keep receipts of it. Keep them in a safe deposit box, or keep them somewhere that if you need them, you'll have them. So, but pictures. Otherwise, we don't know what you have. We come to your house. There was an old ad on TV one time that we were burglarized. You came in at this big old space, but it had a TV in. What size TV was in it? Was it a 19-inch, 30-inch, 50-inch? We don't know. If you have a picture, now we can work with you as far as what you have. No pictures. It becomes, now you're very upset with the insurance agent and the company because we can't pay you something we don't know what you have.
That's good information. Very good information. I didn't know a lot of it myself. Sam.
Loss of use is another very important. So loss of use is another key for renters and owners, because if you have a fire, like I've only had 2 fires, but one was in American Canyon. The company to come out and take all your furniture and clean it, but more importantly, where are you going to live? So we provide another rental house in American Canyon. It was a furnished house. We paid all the rent on that house for 8 months until he can move back into his home. So loss of use is very important, and renters don't realize that if you have a fire, The landlord is not responsible for you to pay your rent anymore. You don't have to pay it, but where are you gonna go? So it works for renters as well as homeowners. It's called loss of use. We'll provide another rental property for you. Buyer, we're thinking you're single, you're there by yourself, so we'll find a place for a single person. Versus if you got 3 people, we need to know that. Does it cost you more to coverage on that? Matter of fact, it lowers your cost because we feel more people in your home, then it's likely somebody will vandalize your home. So tell me that your uncle and brothers living there, brothers and in-laws, and that lowers your cost as far as even on a homeowners policy.
Okay.
You don't have to be on title, but we need to know. Yeah.
Right, right.
And
information.
So yeah, this earthquake policy, flood insurance is not required. But the flood insurance there again, Chris will tell you that could break or make a deal. If you're on Sassoon, someplace in Vallejo, flood insurance can be $5 grand a year. One in Sassoon was $5 grand a year, and guess what? The clients walked. They didn't buy the property. So know where you're buying and find out if it's in a flood zone or not. And your realtors can always call me, and I can also just pull up the property and tell if it's in a flood zone or not, and let you know we can insure it.
Yes.
No cost on that.
Yeah, that's always important, and that shows on the natural hazard disclosure too. You always want to check and see if that property is in a flood zone, because you don't want that big surprise of flood insurance that you weren't expecting. So thank you so much, Sam, for your wealth of knowledge, and we will be sharing your information with the final video to all our participants as well as all of the other presenters. Thanks again. So I just want to take this time to thank all of our presenters, Chris, Pat, Frankie, Kevin, and Sam, for joining us to share all of this information with our potential home buyers. This is so important, and there's so many moving.
Can I share one?
Yeah, go ahead. Sam?
Yeah, Chris, would you expound on one thing about a pre-qual versus a pre-approval? Because a lot of people will go and try to buy a house with a pre-qual and it's worth nothing.
Sure. Because this is a Bay Area specific discussion, I can answer that very quickly. In the Bay Area, there's no such thing as a pre-qual as far as realtors and everyone else is concerned, so it's not worth anything. We just do full documentation pre-approvals or nothing, but there is no middle ground here in the Bay Area. Everything's a full document, full pre-approval.
Yeah. I shared it because years ago, clients could do, anybody could type up a pre-qual and it's worth nothing, versus going to Chris, who's going to do all the documentation, get all the bank statements to make sure you're ready to go. Otherwise, you're a taxi cab driver driving around someone looking at homes and they can't buy anything. So make sure they're pre-qual.
Yes, thanks, Sam, for that. So for the buyers that are potential home buyers that are on the call, if someone gives you a letter and says you're pre-approved for $600,000, but you haven't given them income or your assets, you just verbally told them what you make and how much you have in the bank, it's not going to hold any weight in the streets. So.
And may I add that?
But it happens all the time, so you need to be aware of it.
Right.
You need to be aware of that. That's useless.
I like to add that also just doing a Google search and pulling up a calculator or what you think you qualify for, or knowing that I had buyers, I love them and I'm trying to help them to get them through it, but oh, I did the math already. And I'm like, no, please. So that doesn't hold any water either. So please, yeah.
So basically what we have here is what we went over today. So we started with our pre-approval to our home search, making an offer, putting our earnest money deposit in, going through our inspection, appraisal, underwriting contingencies, learning about title and who's selling you the property, getting your home insurance. We slightly talked about home warranty, which HomeGuard also provides in addition to home inspections, and then doing your walkthrough, closing costs, and now you're at the signing table signing all of your documents and becoming a homeowner after they take those documents and record them with the county. So I thank you all for joining. Again, I want to thank all of the presenters as well as my team for us to come together and share all this information. And we are going to work to disperse this information that we have here today to as many people and potential homeowners as possible. If you're watching this right now and you know someone that is interested in buying and has a lot of questions, this video is a perfect tool and resource. Just imagine deciding you're going to buy a house and then going in a contract and not having any of this information, all these moving parts. Can be so overwhelming. And this is why we take the time with our clients to go through a home buyer's consultation and walk them through the process with all of our partners. So I just want to thank everyone. And if any of our team, if you guys have some parting words, please feel free to take this opportunity now to share anything you want to say in closing with our viewers.
I got one. I got a fun data point that I've been kind of bouncing around in my head. If you go back and you look at the last 5 recessions, in 4 of the last 5 recessions, at the end of the recession in the Bay Area, houses were worth more than at the beginning of the recession. That was true 4 out of the last 5 recessions. Just a fun data point to consider.
Thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, so so definitely the best time to buy is when you are ready. This is a long-term investment, unless you are going into flipping homes. Buying a home is a long-term investment, and just like with anything else, you have to ride the wave, but it is the best investment that you can make. So thank you guys all for joining today.
Yeah, I like to say some closing words, especially because this is a buyer's webinar. I think a lot of, especially in our area where we work, anywhere in the Bay Area, I think everyone recognizes that we have one of the reasons the prices are where they are is because of the inventory, the basic supply and demand, which is the fact that we have more buyers than we have, or people needing housing, I should say. Not so many people ready to buy, even though because they don't know. That's why you need to talk to Chris. But more people needing housing than the actual inventory. So, you know, I do want to mention that there's no higher interest that you pay than paying somebody else's house off. You know, if you do the math of all the rent, especially with the high rents that we have to pay due to the same problem. So, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to get yourself educated and informed, and reach out to any of us. I like to mention that I am fluent in Spanish. So, you know, anyone that needs that, to have them reach out to me, and anyone in Cotton Realty. We're just here to educate people and help them with any questions they might have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add thanks again for inviting me. And you know, it is your biggest investment in life. Take your time, do your homework, you know, and that's the most important thing. Be educated, and your process will be a lot smoother.
I agree with that as well. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I thank the Cotton team for putting this on, because nowadays it's more important to be more educated than not. So kudos to you guys, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for everyone. Yeah,
thank you so much
today. All right.
So.
I hope to show some houses.
Right. Yeah, I have a 1:30 appointment. It looks like that's a wrap. Thank you guys.
Right.
I have like 5.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck out there.
All right.
Have a nice brunch and great weekend, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.